Here's a look at a recap of your markets on this Friday, the 5th day of September. It's Friday afternoon, so of course we got a lot of information to give to you. We're going to jump right in and do that. First, we'd like to remind you about some special replacement cow sales taking place this weekend. Tomorrow on Saturday, right after lunchtime, Mocan Livestock Market in Butler, they've got about 900 heads scheduled for their special replacement cow sale. And then tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, right about supper time, Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains, they're expecting to have about 1,000 head. If by some chance you're looking for some hay, Southwest Missouri Hay Auction will take place tomorrow down in Golden City. That'll get kicked off at 10 o'clock sharp, and they don't mess around there. They'll get through that hay in time to get everybody home for kickoff of that Mizzou and KU game so that we can watch the Tigers pull some feathers out of those Jayhawks. Tomorrow, the early listings for that hay auction, it is going to be a big hay auction. They're expecting to have about 1,250 large round bills, 1,850 large square bills, and about 2,400 small square bills. They'll have a quality stretched across the spectrum, so anything you might need, very likely they're going to have it. Taking a look at the feedlot trade for this week, as of the 2 o'clock cutoff time, we had 65,879 head of confirmed negotiated sales. Texas reported 4,685 head from 242 to 243. Kansas reported 6,418 head from 242 to 243. That price spread between the North and the South disappeared this week. The northern sales were generally a bit lower. There was a few very late sales that possibly could have been considered a little bit higher, but overall the North was a touch lower this week. Iowa reported 24,025 head. The live sales from 242 to 243 mostly, a few at 245. Dress sales at 380 up to 387 on some very late sales Friday afternoon. The majority of those sales happened on Thursday at 383. Nebraska, kind of the same story there, 22,589 head this week, 242 to 243. Dress sales from 382 up to 387 very late on Friday, the majority of those sales at 383. Box beef cutout values were lower for the week and the day. On Friday, choice was down $3.45 at $410.76. Select was down $2.58 at $385.19. Those values on Friday, based on some pretty good volume, 120 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. The choice select spread at $25.57. Taking a look at what happened at the auction barns around the state this week with the Labor Day holiday, many of the barns were closed. A very light run this week. Once we get those replacement cow sales from this weekend in, might end up with about 12,000 head, but again, a very light run. Most of the sales that did have sales around, the calves sold in small packages. There was a few load lots of yearlings around, but overall, pretty light offering this week, and it made it awful hard for buyers to get loads put together. The market's steady to maybe a touch weaker. Some of that probably very much attributed to the fact that the receipts were so light. Taking a look at a few of the stick-out sales this week, 37 head of 510-pound steers at Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains sold at $457.50. The average statewide this week on the light 5-weight steers at $455. Green Sea Livestock Auction sold a small package of 598-pound steers at $452. They also had a full load of 770-pound steers at $390.50. Kingsville Livestock Auction, they had a package of 720-pound steers sold at $425. Now, they were tagged as thin-fleshed. The average statewide on those light 7-weight steers this week at $393. Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains, they sold a full load of 809-pound steers, and that's getting a long ways south in the state of Missouri. They brought $369.50. When you traveled north, Kingsville Livestock Auction sold a full load of 824-pound steers, just a touch better at $373. Green City had a full load of 861-pound steers this week at $368.75. Taking a look at some heifer sales, Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains. Package of 515-pound heifers at $4.20. The average statewide, $4.01. So that $4.20 doesn't matter if you're in the north or the south. That's an awful good ticket. They also sold a package of 734-pound steers at West Plains, or heifers at West Plains at $367.50. The average statewide this week on those light 7-weight heifers at $365. Green Sea Livestock Auction sold a full load of 819-pound heifers at $342.75. Taking a look at the futures markets this week on the Mercantile Exchange. Live cattle, $3.32 to $3.95 lower for the week. Lean hogs, 40 cents to $1 higher. The feeder cattle closed the week $4.95 to $7.45 lower. Taking a look at Friday's closes. October live cattle down 97 cents for the day, $235.97. December down $1 and a dime at $237.45. February at $238.67, down $1.20. September feeder cattle were unchanged for the day, $365.82. October down $1 and a nickel, $357.90. November $356.15, down $1.92. Lean hogs for October $96.02, up $1. December $88.32, up $1.02, and February $90.37, up $87. Taking a look at the grain markets. Cash bids paid to producers on Friday. The soybean bid 6 to 7 higher. Wheat was unchanged to 1 higher, and corn a penny lower on Friday. Corn bids in the St. Louis region $4.10, Kansas City $3.95. Soybean bids in St. Louis $9.99 to $10, Kansas City at $9.42, and wheat in St. Louis $4.59 to $4.69. On the Board of Trade for the week, soybeans closed 24 to 30 cents lower. Wheat was 15 to 17 lower. The old crop September corn was a penny higher. The other contracts stayed a 2 lower. Soybean meal for the week, $2.90 to $5.80 lower. On the Board of Trade, corn for September, $3.99 was Friday's close. That was down 3/4 cent. December at $4.18, down 1 3/4, and March at $4.36 1/2, down a penny. Soybeans for September, $10.06 1/2, down 5 1/2. November, $10.27, down 6, and January, $10.45 1/2, down 6. Wheat for September, $5.01, down 1 1/4. December, $5.19 1/4, down 1/4, and March at $5.35 3/4, down 1/4. Soybean meal for September, $2.80.50 a ton, up $1.10. Soybean oil for September, $50.56 a hundredweight, down 67 cents. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a recap of your markets for Friday. This is Tony Hancock.